The morning started like any other in the tall glass building at the heart of the city. The office buzzed with the usual energy of employees moving quickly from meeting to meeting, computers clicking, and phones ringing. The CEO of the company sat in his corner office, reviewing reports with a keen eye. He was known for his sharp decisions and ability to handle pressure. But today, something was about to test him like never before. At first, it began with small glitches. Emails took longer to send, some files failed to open, and a few employees noticed that their systems were unusually slow. The CEO frowned and called his assistant over. "Check with IT," he said calmly. "We need to know if this is just a temporary issue or something bigger." The assistant hurried to relay the message, but as minutes passed, the problems grew worse. Suddenly, the entire system froze. Screens turned blank, error messages popped up, and even the backup servers failed to respond. Panic spread across the office like wildfire. Employees rushed to their managers, trying to understand what was happening. Phones rang endlessly, but no one could get through. Projects that had been months in the making were suddenly at risk. The CEO stood by his window, looking out at the city below, feeling a rare sense of fear gnawing at him. He had faced many challenges in his career, but a total system collapse was not one of them. The IT department scrambled frantically. Engineers huddled together, discussing the problem in technical terms that flew over most people's heads. They tried every usual solution, rebooting servers, restoring backups, checking for viruses, and scanning for errors. But nothing worked. Hours seemed to pass like minutes, and still, the system remained unresponsive. Frustration and worry filled the office. Clients were calling, asking why work wasn't progressing, and every second felt like a ticking time bomb. The CEO paced his office, rubbing his temples. He had invested years building this company, and now it felt like it could all crumble in a day. He felt helpless, a feeling he rarely allowed himself to experience. Employees whispered in corners, their voices tinged with fear and disbelief. Everyone knew the stakes were high, and the longer the system was down, the greater the potential damage. In the middle of the chaos, a young waitress who worked in the company cafeteria observed the scene quietly. She had always been curious about computers and technology, spending her free time learning about different systems and software. She had helped coworkers with minor issues before, but she had never been called upon in a crisis of this scale. Today, however, something made her step forward. She approached the CEO's office cautiously. He looked up at her, surprised to see someone from the cafeteria standing there. "Can I help you?" he asked, his tone more weary than questioning. She nodded confidently and explained that she had experience with system errors and might be able to try something the IT team hadn't considered yet. At first, the CEO hesitated. The idea of letting a cafeteria worker handle a critical system failure seemed absurd. The IT engineers exchanged skeptical glances. But something about her calm confidence made him pause. Desperation, after all, makes people consider even the most unlikely solutions. She was led to the server room, where the IT team had been working tirelessly. She examined the main server, listening carefully to the sounds of the machines and observing the error messages. Without hesitation, she began checking configurations, tracing network connections, and reviewing logs that had baffled the professionals. Her hands moved quickly over the keyboard, entering commands with precision. The room was silent except for the occasional click of keys and the soft hum of the machines. Minutes passed, each one feeling longer than the last. The CEO and the IT team watched with a mix of hope and disbelief. Slowly, one by one, the screens flickered back to life. Files reopened, emails started sending again, and the system began to stabilize. Employees cheered quietly, not wanting to disturb the delicate process, as the impossible began to happen right before their eyes. When the last screen fully loaded, the CEO let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. He turned to the young woman, his eyes wide with astonishment. She smiled modestly, brushing off the attention as if it were just another day. The IT team, though initially skeptical, nodded in respect, realizing that her unconventional approach had saved the day. Word of what had happened spread quickly through the office. Colleagues who had once overlooked her as just a cafeteria worker now looked at her with admiration and curiosity. She had done what no one else could, solving a problem that threatened the company's stability and reputation. The CEO, normally so composed and in control, felt a mixture of gratitude and humility. He realized that talent and capability could come from the most unexpected places. The day, which had begun with panic and fear, ended with relief and a newfound sense of respect. Employees returned to their tasks with renewed energy, inspired by the reminder that anyone, regardless of their position, could make a significant difference. The CEO, reflecting on the events, felt a shift in perspective. He understood that leadership wasn't just about directing from the top, but also about recognizing and trusting the abilities of those around him. As the office settled back into its usual rhythm, the young waitress quietly returned to her duties, carrying herself with the same calm confidence that had resolved the crisis. The CEO watched her go, realizing that today had taught him one of the most important lessons of his career. Solutions can come from the most unexpected places, and sometimes, the greatest help arrives when you least expect it. After the system was restored, the office slowly returned to normal, but the tension that had built up earlier lingered in the air. Employees whispered to one another, sharing their amazement at what had happened. The young waitress, who had saved the company from disaster, quietly returned to her usual tasks, yet everyone's eyes seemed to follow her. There was an unspoken recognition that she had done something extraordinary, something that would not be forgotten. The CEO, sitting back at his desk, could hardly concentrate on the piles of paperwork in front of him. He kept replaying the events of the day in his mind. The way she had assessed the problem calmly and efficiently, the way she had executed a solution without hesitation, left him both impressed and humbled. He realized that in all his years of managing the company, he had never seen anyone approach a crisis with such clarity and skill. Meanwhile, the IT department was still trying to process what had happened. They were used to solving complex problems, yet this situation had proven to be beyond their collective expertise. At first, some of them were frustrated and embarrassed. How could a cafeteria worker succeed where they had failed? But as they observed her, they began to see the logic in her approach. It wasn't just luck or chance. She had a method, a clear understanding of how systems worked, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. Slowly, their skepticism turned into admiration. Employees began stopping by the cafeteria, offering small thanks and congratulations. Some brought her coffee or snacks, while others simply nodded in appreciation. The young woman, always modest, accepted the gestures with a quiet smile, never making a big deal out of her actions. Yet, despite her humility, her confidence had grown. She now knew that her knowledge and skills mattered, and that they could make a real difference when the situation demanded it. The CEO called a meeting with his senior managers. He wanted to understand how the situation had escalated so quickly and how it had been resolved. As they gathered in the conference room, he began by acknowledging the efforts of the IT department, who had worked tirelessly to try to fix the system. Then, he turned to the young waitress, who had been quietly standing in the corner, and praised her publicly. Her eyes widened slightly, and she looked down, unaccustomed to such attention. The room was silent for a moment, as everyone absorbed the significance of what had just occurred. Today, we learned an important lesson. The CEO began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. No matter how experienced we think we are, there is always someone who can surprise us, someone who can offer a solution we might not have considered. Today, that person is here. She showed us that talent and intelligence are not limited by titles or roles. Everyone here has the potential to make a difference. He paused, letting his words sink in. The room was filled with a mix of pride, relief, and admiration. After the meeting, the young waitress returned to her work, but she was no longer just a familiar face in the cafeteria. People now saw her differently. She was no longer just a helper who brought coffee and lunch. She was someone who had saved the company. Her reputation grew quickly, spreading from department to department. Colleagues who had barely noticed her before now stopped to ask her advice on small technical issues, eager to learn from someone who had proven herself under pressure. The The CEO spent the rest of the day reflecting on the incident. He realized that his assumptions about people's abilities had been limited. In his mind, he had always associated technical skill with job titles, education, and experience. Today, he had learned that intelligence and problem-solving ability could appear anywhere, often in the most unexpected places. This realization began to shift the way he thought about leadership and management. He resolved to create an environment where everyone's ideas were valued, no matter where they came from. The company also began to examine the systems that had failed. While the immediate crisis was over, it was clear that improvements were needed to prevent a similar situation in the future. The CEO called together a team, including the young waitress, to review the infrastructure and suggest upgrades. Her insights proved invaluable. She offered practical solutions and pointed out vulnerabilities that the more experienced staff had overlooked. Her involvement not only helped strengthen the system but also inspired the team to think differently about problem solving. Outside of work, she remained humble. Friends and family were amazed when they heard about her accomplishment, but she brushed off their praise with a simple, "I just did what I could." Yet, inside, she felt a quiet confidence. She knew she had faced a real challenge and had made a difference. That sense of accomplishment stayed with her, motivating her to continue learning and growing in ways she had never imagined. As the weeks passed, the story of the system crash and its resolution became part of the company's culture. New employees were told about it during orientation, not just as a tale of technical success, but as an example of how unexpected talent could shine in critical moments. The young waitress became a symbol of resourcefulness, humility, and the importance of recognizing hidden potential in everyone. The CEO, meanwhile, began holding informal sessions where employees at all levels could share ideas and solutions directly with him. The walls that separated job titles began to feel less rigid. People were encouraged to speak up, and their suggestions were often taken seriously. It was a transformation in the company culture that started with one unexpected hero who refused to be limited by the role others had assigned to her. The young waitress continued to work in the cafeteria, but her influence extended far beyond it. She helped guide discussions on technical matters, offered tips to staff, and even mentored employees who wanted to improve their computer skills. People were inspired by her calm demeanor, her problem-solving ability, and the way she treated everyone with respect, regardless of their position. She had become a role model without ever seeking attention or praise. Despite the recognition, she never let the attention change her. She continued to do her work diligently, always ready to step up when needed. Her story was a reminder to everyone that greatness could appear in any form, and that true leadership often involved seeing potential in places others overlooked. The CEO, once overwhelmed by crisis, had gained a new perspective, and the company had learned a valuable lesson about trust, talent, and the power of unexpected heroes. Every day after that, as employees passed through the cafeteria, they would see her at work and smile, remembering the day when one person's courage and skill had saved the entire company. It was a story they would tell for years, a story of hope, resilience, and the reminder that sometimes the solution comes from where you least expect it. Days passed after the system collapse, but the impact of what had happened continued to resonate through the company. Employees still whispered about the unexpected hero who had saved the day. Even those who had been skeptical at first were now full of admiration and curiosity. It wasn't just her knowledge that impressed people. It was the way she handled the situation calmly and efficiently, never panicking even when everything seemed lost. The CEO found himself thinking about her constantly. He had always considered himself a fair and observant leader, but this experience made him realize he had underestimated people. Titles and positions, he now saw, were not always a true measure of capability. In fact, sometimes the most valuable contributions came from those whom others overlooked. He decided he wanted to get to know her better, to understand her thinking and learn from the perspective she brought to problems. Meanwhile, the young woman continued her routine in the cafeteria. She served meals, cleared tables, and greeted employees with her usual warm smile. Yet, she was more aware now than ever of the respect she had earned. Colleagues would stop by not just to chat, but to pick her brain about technical issues, software, and problem-solving approaches. She always answered with patience and simplicity, making complicated ideas easy for anyone to understand. Her calm confidence was infectious, and people began to feel braver trying solutions they might have been afraid to attempt before. One morning, the CEO walked into the cafeteria during a particularly busy hour. He observed how she moved efficiently among the customers, handling multiple tasks without seeming rushed. He approached her quietly, not wanting to interrupt her flow, and waited until she had a moment to speak. She looked up and greeted him politely, as she always did. He asked if she could spare a few minutes to discuss the system crash and her approach to solving it. She agreed without hesitation. They moved to a quiet corner, and she began to explain the steps she had taken, the logic behind her choices, and how she had remained calm under pressure. The CEO listened intently, taking mental notes, realizing that there was a depth of knowledge and intuition in her approach that could benefit the company in many ways. He was fascinated by her clarity and the simplicity with which she could solve complex problems. At the same time, the IT department, who had initially struggled, began to engage more with her. They asked questions not out of doubt, but out of genuine interest in understanding her methods. She welcomed the collaboration, never making anyone feel inferior for having struggled. Her approach was about sharing knowledge and empowering others, not showing off. Slowly, a bridge formed between the IT staff and her, built on respect and mutual curiosity. Employees began to notice the change in the office atmosphere. There was a renewed sense of energy and collaboration. People felt inspired to contribute ideas, no matter how small, knowing that their input could have real impact. The CEO encouraged this, often checking in with various departments and asking for their insights. The young woman became a quiet but influential figure in this new culture, a reminder that creativity and problem-solving could come from anyone. One day, an unexpected problem arose. A critical client report had errors that threatened to delay an important contract. The IT team attempted to fix it, but the issue was technical and complex, beyond the immediate expertise of most employees. The young woman stepped in, calmly reviewing the report and identifying the source of the errors. She worked with the team to correct the mistakes efficiently, preventing a potential disaster. Once again, her ability to remain calm and methodical under pressure proved invaluable. The CEO was present during this incident and watched in amazement. He realized that her contributions were not just about technical skill. They were about perspective, patience, and problem-solving mindset. She didn't just fix issues. She taught people how to approach challenges in a logical and composed manner. This realization deepened his respect for her and reinforced the lessons he had learned from the first crisis. Word of her latest success spread quickly. Employees across different departments began seeking her advice for various problems, from minor technical glitches to workflow inefficiencies. She remained approachable and grounded, never letting the attention affect her humility. Her influence grew not because she demanded it, but because she naturally inspired trust and confidence in others. The CEO decided to formalize her involvement in company projects. He asked her to join a small advisory team that would review critical processes and provide insights. This decision surprised many, but it was quickly accepted once they saw her practical knowledge and the calm clarity she brought to every discussion. She didn't claim authority, but her ideas carried weight, and people began to follow her guidance naturally. Through all of this, she continued her work in the cafeteria, serving meals and interacting with staff as usual. Yet, everyone knew that she was more than just the person behind the counter. Her presence had become a symbol of talent, humility, and the power of unexpected solutions. Employees were inspired not only by what she could do, but by how she conducted herself, with respect, patience, and confidence. The company began to thrive in ways that were unexpected. Collaboration improved, employee morale soared, and the CEO noticed a reduction in stress and tension. People were more willing to take initiative, knowing that leadership valued ideas regardless of rank. The young woman's influence was subtle but powerful. She reminded everyone that even in high-pressure environments, calm thinking, knowledge, and humility could make a lasting impact. Her story also reached outside the company. Business partners and clients heard about the incident and were impressed by the way the company valued talent from all levels. It became a talking point, demonstrating that leadership involved recognizing and nurturing hidden potential. The young woman, despite her rising influence, never sought attention. She continued to approach each task with dedication and care, proving that true impact comes from consistent effort, not ego. Even in her personal life, she felt a sense of growth and accomplishment. She had always been curious and eager to learn, but these experiences reinforced her belief that knowledge and skill could be applied in meaningful ways to make a difference. She encouraged friends and family to embrace their strengths, showing them that courage, patience, and determination could overcome seemingly impossible challenges. The CEO often reflected on the lessons he had learned from her. He realized that leadership was not only about making decisions from the top, but also about recognizing talent in unexpected places. He began mentoring other managers to adopt the same perspective, fostering a culture where contributions were valued, creativity was encouraged, and people were empowered to solve problems beyond their assigned roles. In the office, every day became a reminder of what had been accomplished. The young woman continued to serve in the cafeteria, but her influence extended far beyond it. She was a teacher, a guide, and an inspiration. Employees would quietly admire her focus, her calm approach to challenges, and her ability to make others feel confident. She had transformed the office culture in a way no one had anticipated, and her story became an enduring example of humility, skill, and the impact of unexpected heroes. People began to understand that solutions often come from the most unlikely places. It wasn't about titles, experience, or appearances. It was about knowledge, approach, and the courage to act when it mattered most. The young woman embodied all of these qualities, and through her actions, the company had discovered a new path forward, one that was collaborative, respectful, and open to talent wherever it could be found. Her quiet influence continued to ripple through the company, shaping decisions, inspiring employees, and reminding everyone that greatness can appear anywhere. Each day, as she carried out her routine in the cafeteria, she remained approachable, humble, and focused. Yet, in every interaction, she left an imprint, a lesson that true capability is measured not by position, but by action, insight, and the willingness to step up when it counts. Weeks passed, and the young woman's influence in the company continued to grow quietly but powerfully. Employees had become more confident in their abilities, inspired by her calm problem-solving and willingness to help. The CEO noticed the shift, realizing that her presence had brought not just solutions, but also a sense of unity and collaboration that had been missing before. One morning, a critical project faced unexpected setbacks. A new software update had created compatibility issues, causing delays that could have impacted a major client presentation. The IT department was already stretched thin, trying to address multiple problems at once, and stress levels were high. The young woman, as always, observed the situation calmly. She offered to take a look, explaining that sometimes a fresh perspective could help identify overlooked details. Skepticism was present at first, as some managers thought this was another minor issue not worth involving her in. However, the CEO insisted. He had learned that her insights were not limited to what one might expect. She examined the software update thoroughly, checking logs, configurations, and user interactions. Slowly, she identified the root cause, a small but critical error that had gone unnoticed by everyone else. With careful adjustments and clear instructions to the IT team, she corrected the problem. The system stabilized, and the client presentation could go on as planned. Employees watched in quiet admiration, realizing again that her skill and calm demeanor could solve what seemed impossible. The CEO felt a mix of pride and relief, grateful that someone so capable was part of the team. Word spread quickly about her latest achievement. Employees from other departments sought her guidance, not just on technical matters, but also for advice on handling stressful situations and approaching challenges methodically. She taught them the importance of staying calm, analyzing problems step by step, and communicating clearly with teammates. Her influence became a guiding force, helping everyone approach obstacles more confidently. The CEO called another meeting, this time to formally recognize her contributions. He praised her not only for her technical abilities, but also for the positive impact she had on the company's culture. He spoke about how her approach encouraged teamwork, inspired confidence, and helped people see potential where they had not noticed it before. The employees applauded, many with smiles that reflected admiration and respect. Despite the attention, she remained humble. She continued her work in the cafeteria, engaging with colleagues in her usual warm and approachable way. Yet, she also began taking on small advisory roles, helping guide decisions, mentoring employees, and contributing ideas to improve workflows and efficiency. Her quiet confidence made her an approachable and effective mentor, someone employees could turn to without feeling intimidated. The company began to thrive in new ways. Projects moved faster, and employee morale improved. People collaborated more openly, sharing ideas freely and learning from one another. The CEO noticed that even small challenges were now being met with more creativity and problem-solving than before. The culture of the company had shifted, with openness, respect, and collaboration becoming the norm rather than the exception. The young woman's role, though still informal, became central to this cultural shift. She never demanded recognition, but her consistent actions spoke volumes. She showed that leadership and influence were not about titles or positions, but about action, insight, and the willingness to step in when needed. Her example inspired employees to look beyond their roles and contribute in meaningful ways. One day, the company faced an unexpected challenge when a sudden technical issue threatened to interrupt a critical online client meeting. The IT team was already managing multiple tasks and worried they wouldn't resolve the issue in time. The young woman noticed the urgency and offered to assist. With steady hands and clear instructions, she quickly analyzed the situation and implemented a solution that restored functionality just minutes before the meeting began. The client was impressed, and the team once again witnessed her ability to handle high-pressure situations with composure and skill. This event reinforced the CEO's perspective on talent and leadership. He began holding sessions with managers to encourage them to recognize hidden skills within their teams. The company established informal programs to allow employees from all departments to contribute ideas and solutions, inspired by the young woman's example. Her impact was no longer limited to technical problem-solving. It was transforming the very way the company operated. Even outside work, she became a source of inspiration. Friends and family marveled at her achievements, but she remained grounded. She continued to encourage learning, patience, and persistence, showing that success often comes from calm focus and dedication rather than loud ambition or recognition. Her humility and effectiveness became a model not just in the office, but in the broader community as well. Employees increasingly shared stories of how her guidance had helped them overcome challenges, both big and small. Her influence encouraged collaboration, innovation, and thoughtful problem-solving across the company. The CEO, who had once felt helpless during the system collapse, now felt proud to witness the transformation that her presence had brought about. The young woman continued her daily routines in the cafeteria, but her reputation as a problem solver and guide had grown. People sought her advice, watched how she approached challenges, and learned from her example. She remained approachable, humble, and patient, proving that true leadership and impact come from action, insight, and willingness to help others. Her story inspired a broader conversation within the company about recognizing and valuing talent from unexpected places. Employees began looking at one another with fresh eyes, appreciating the skills, knowledge, and perspectives that might have been overlooked in the past. This cultural shift, subtle but powerful, had long-lasting effects on morale, productivity, and collaboration. The CEO often reflected on what he had learned from her. He realized that leadership was not about knowing everything or controlling every aspect of the company, but about fostering an environment where talent could flourish and contributions could be recognized, no matter where they came from. The young woman had shown that ability, calm thinking, and humility could create lasting change. Her influence continued to ripple through the company. She inspired confidence, encouraged collaboration, and helped employees approach problems with patience and clarity. Every day, As she carried out her tasks in the cafeteria, she left a quiet but powerful impression. People learned from her example not just about technical skills, but about the value of calm, thoughtful action and the importance of recognizing and nurturing potential wherever it might appear. Through every challenge, she remained grounded and focused, never seeking personal recognition but always willing to step in when needed. Her impact on the company was profound, transforming both its culture and its approach to problem-solving. She had become a symbol of quiet strength, humility, and the transformative power of unexpected talent. Months had passed since the day the system had collapsed, and the young woman's quiet influence had transformed the company in ways no one could have predicted. The CEO, once overwhelmed by fear and uncertainty, now felt a deep sense of gratitude and respect. He had learned that leadership was about more than directing from the top. It was about recognizing talent, encouraging initiative, and trusting people to contribute their best in unexpected ways. The young woman continued her routine in the cafeteria, serving meals and greeting employees with her characteristic warmth. But everyone now understood that she was more than a cafeteria worker. She had become a symbol of capability, humility, and calm under pressure. Employees admired her, not for titles or authority, but for the way she approached every task with focus and determination. Her influence had reached every corner of the company, subtly shaping culture and inspiring people to do better. One morning, the CEO observed a situation that would have previously caused panic. A critical software update was failing during an important client presentation, and the IT team was struggling to keep up with the pressure. He watched as employees began to worry, sensing that without a solution, the company could face embarrassment and lost opportunities. He knew immediately what to do and called the young woman to the scene. She approached calmly, assessing the problem with her usual clarity. The room, tense and filled with anxious faces, seemed to breathe a little easier in her presence. She began troubleshooting step by step, explaining her thought process to the IT team as she worked. Her calm confidence reassured everyone, and little by little the system began to respond. Screens flickered back to life, reports updated, and the presentation continued without interruption. The client remained unaware of the crisis that had almost derailed the meeting. Employees watched in awe once again, realizing that her skill went beyond technical knowledge. She had the ability to inspire calm and confidence, even in moments of high pressure. She had taught the company that staying composed, thinking clearly, and approaching problems methodically could overcome nearly any challenge. The CEO felt a deep sense of pride, knowing that someone with such talent and humility was part of the team. After the incident, the CEO decided to implement a new initiative to capture and encourage hidden talent within the company. Inspired by her example, he created a program that allowed employees from all levels to share their ideas, contribute solutions, and participate in projects that matched their skills and interests. This initiative fostered innovation, collaboration, and a culture where everyone felt their contributions were valued. The young woman was asked to help guide the program, providing insights and mentoring employees as they navigated new responsibilities. Her influence extended beyond technical problem-solving. She had shown the company that leadership could be about guidance, collaboration, and nurturing potential. Employees learned to approach challenges creatively, to remain calm under pressure, and to trust in the abilities of their colleagues. The company thrived in this environment, becoming more resilient, innovative, and unified. Despite her growing influence, she remained humble. She continued her work in the cafeteria, greeting employees warmly, serving meals efficiently, and engaging in friendly conversation. Her presence was both familiar and inspiring, a reminder that true skill and leadership could come from any role. She did not seek recognition, yet everyone respected and admired her for the impact she had on the company. The CEO often reflected on how much he had learned from her. He realized that leadership involved seeing beyond appearances and titles, trusting in people's abilities, and creating an environment where talent could flourish. He encouraged managers to adopt the same perspective, ensuring that employees at every level felt valued and empowered. The young woman had not only solved technical problems but had also transformed the culture of the company in a lasting way. Employees increasingly looked to her as a mentor and guide. She helped them develop problem-solving skills, encouraged clear communication, and taught the importance of patience and perseverance. Her example inspired confidence and creativity, reminding everyone that they could contribute meaningfully, no matter their role. Through her calm and steady approach, she became a quiet leader, shaping the company's future from behind the scenes. The company continued to face challenges, as all organizations do, but the approach had changed. Problems were met with collaboration and thoughtful analysis rather than panic. Employees felt empowered to suggest solutions, experiment with ideas, and support one another. The CEO saw that the young woman's influence had created a ripple effect, improving not just technical processes, but also teamwork, morale, and overall company culture. Outside the office, she remained grounded and modest. Friends and family admired her achievements, but she never boasted. She continued learning and growing, seeking opportunities to expand her knowledge, and quietly sharing her insights with others. Her example showed that success and influence could be achieved through dedication, humility, and willingness to act when it mattered most. Months later, the CEO addressed the company in a meeting. He spoke about the lessons learned from the system collapse and the incredible contributions of the young woman. He highlighted how her calm thinking, skill, and humility had saved the company and inspired everyone. He emphasized the importance of recognizing potential in all employees and creating a culture of collaboration and respect. The room was filled with applause, but she remained in the background, smiling quietly, as she had always done. The story of her impact became part of the company's identity. New employees heard it during onboarding, and it served as a reminder that talent could come from anywhere. Her actions had shown that leadership was not about authority or position, but about the ability to inspire, guide, and make a difference. She had become a symbol of hope, resourcefulness, and quiet strength. Even in routine days, her presence continued to influence the office. Employees approached problems with more confidence, communicated more effectively, and supported one another more willingly. The CEO saw that the company had become stronger, not just in technology and systems, but in culture, teamwork, and resilience. The young woman had achieved this not through titles or recognition, but through consistent action, skill, and humility. She continued to work in the cafeteria, serving meals and interacting warmly with colleagues, but her impact extended far beyond those daily tasks. She had shown that anyone could make a difference, that leadership could emerge in unexpected ways, and that calm, thoughtful action could transform a company. Her story became a guiding example, reminding everyone that greatness often comes quietly, through steady dedication, insight, and a willingness to help others when it matters most. The CEO, reflecting on everything, realized that this experience had changed him forever. He had learned to value people for their abilities, not their positions, and to create a culture where everyone felt empowered to contribute. The young woman had saved the company, yes, but she had also inspired a shift in mindset, proving that true leadership and impact could come from anyone, anywhere. Her story was now a part of the company's heart, a testament to the power of humility, skill, and the unexpected heroes among us.